If you are searching for a way to take your blues lead guitar playing to a higher level, but you just don't have time to learn theory, and you want to move past just playing the pentatonic scales, today I'm going to show you two patterns that you can use to play blues lead guitar in any key all up and down the fretboard. This will give you the tools and confidence to be more creative with your blues playing and not be stuck playing in the same pentatonic box. So grab your guitar and let's get into it. So my last video was right along this same concept, and it focused on one pattern that you could play over any major or minor chord. I highly encourage you to go check that video out. I'll leave a link in the description for you. Now for this video, we're going to focus on seventh chords. So it sounds real close to your major chord. The difference is it has this note right there. This is an A dominant 7. So here's your root note, your A. Here's your root note, your A. We're going to drop this down 2 frets. And that makes it a 7th chord. We can also bring this note right here in for the 7th chord. Now we're going to be doing this for all 3 chords of every chord progression. So if we're in the key of A, then A is our 1, D would be our 4, and then E would be our 5. So we'd have an A dominant 7th chord, we'd have a D dominant 7th chord, and an E dominant 7th chord. So in your A-shaped chords, you've got your root note here and here, and you're going to drop this down 2 frets. And now you've got your dominant 7th chord. So our first pattern, we're just going to call this our home base or our foundation for playing blues lead guitar. So it's going to be a minor pentatonic blues scale, but we're going to add one note, which is going to be the major 3rd, which I will explain. So let's stay in our A right here. And so our index finger is on the 5th fret, bottom E string, and we're going to play this scale. Now I'm sure you're familiar with that scale more than likely because it's just the blues scale. But there again, we are adding this major 3rd. Now the major 3rd is really not a note that you would play like just playing a scale. You would very seldom ever play it like that. But it is used in different ways, so think of this. There's also a major 3rd right there. So this is really important that you get that major 3rd in there because you got to have that major 3rd note in order to make the chord. So our focus is going to be in the key of A, but later on I'll show you how to move it into different keys. Before we get into playing over the next 2 chords, which is the D7 and the E7, I want to talk to you about breaking out of this pentatonic box. Instead of just staying with this scale, what I want to do is add some extension notes. They're going to be the same notes within the scale. So on the bottom E string, we're going to start with this G, then we're going to go to the A. Then from the A string, we've got our C, and then we've got our C sharp, which is our major 3rd. There's our D right there, and then we've got our blues note. And now we're going to go to the next string. And now we've got our G string, major 3rd, blues note. Now we're going to go to this note here. And now we're going to jump to our B string, and we've got 8th fret, 10th fret. Then we've got our E string, 8th fret, 10th fret. Now from here we're going to go up 2 chromatic notes. So that altogether looks something like this so far. So we're going to add this note right here on the B string, and we've got licks that we can play something like this. So walking back down, we've got this. So once again, looks like this, played slow. Again, it's kind of strange doing the scale with that major third, because once again, you're never going to play just a straight scale with that major third. It's used in different ways. So we'll talk more about that here in just a moment. So I'm going to play some licks and phrases over all three chords, the A7, the D7, and the E7, using just this extended pattern. Here's your A7, D7, back to your A7, E7, D7, A7. So what you'll notice is when we go to that D7 and the E7, I'm pretty much hitting like the root notes, and there's some stuff I can do right there with this pattern, but you really need more notes to cover that D7 and E7. Without going into the theory of all of it, you can just hear it. If I play this scale, they don't really fit too well until I hit that D note right there. Same thing for the E7. Notice I'm landing on that E. So this second pattern we're going to look at is going to take in consideration these other chords. Now it's also going to add some cool stuff to the A7 chord as well. So let's go ahead and dive into this second pattern. So now for the second pattern, this is going to be your A major pentatonic blues scale. So let's start with this A right here, or we could start with this A because we're going to do the extended version of it also. But let's just go ahead and start with this A, and then we're going to go up 2 frets, and then we've got our same pattern that we just played, only thing we're playing it right here instead of right there. So it's going to look like this. And again, we could start with this A note if we wanted to. Now again, it's the same pattern, but it's different because it's a major pentatonic blues scale instead of an A minor pentatonic blues scale. And be sure and stick around because toward the end of the video, I'm going to be playing over a backing track, and I'll be using both of these patterns on all 3 of the chords here. The idea is to use, again, the extended patterns. We would just start right here on this E note. Now what I'm going to use this pattern here for will be some stuff on the A, so I can play this A chord right here. Or I can play the D, and I can take this same pattern, and where I'm starting right here on the A, I can go up here and start on this D right here, or this D. So starting from this bar chord or starting from this bar chord. So let's start here. Or start here. Do the same thing from the E, which is right here. And there's your chord right there. So and that's what we're going to use from time to time when we go to this D chord and the E chord. Again, you can still use your minor pentatonic blues scales even when you go to your D. So think of this D chord right here. I went straight from the major pentatonic to the minor pentatonic blues. I can do the same thing with the E7. And now with the A7, I could basically do some major, minor stuff, just alternating with it as well. So that's pretty popular. It sounds like something B.B. Kingish or whatever. Of course, you could do the B.B. King box up here. So from the major pentatonic, here is your home base, or kind of like your foundation. From the minor pentatonic, here's your home base or your foundation. So let me just show you an example of playing over all three of these chords and mixing the major minor. Check it out. Now, as you can see, this is where playing the blues really gets interesting, because it's all about mixing and alternating these two patterns. Again, it's a major pentatonic blues pattern or a minor pentatonic blues pattern, and you're using the notes from both patterns, and you want to keep them separate. It's very important that you look at them separately, because if you were to take all those notes from both patterns and write them all out, you would have basically 9 notes out of a 12-note octave. So you really want to keep them separate, but you're never playing a scale. You're never playing just da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Most of the time you're just hitting licks and phrases over the chords, and it's all about the chord that you're playing over. So once again, it's just phrases. That's all minor scale. There's bringing in your major scale. That's minor. D7. Once again, I'm using my notes from the patterns in the key of A. Now I've got the notes I need for that D7. And I can do the same thing with this E. That's just using some of those same notes. Now you might call that a different scale. It's actually more of a Dorian mode scale pattern, but that's for another lesson. But it's still using the notes from these two patterns. We've only learned 2 patterns is all we're focusing on. And we're mixing and matching and alternating and just kind of having some fun. And really it's all about using your ear to hear these notes, and you want to hear the notes in each chord. So it's all about the notes for each chord. You can hear the notes for each chord. And again, it sounds just like a major chord, but it's got that seventh note in there. Right there, that just makes it really cool, really sweet. And it gives you the ability to change it up a little bit. So I can play this E7 and I can do major. Or I can do minor. And it works either way. That's why this is so cool. You can move this around, obviously, to different keys. Say we were in our key of G. G7 would be your 1. C7 would be your 4. D7 would be your 5. And so if you were in the key of C, C's your 1, F's your 4, G's your 5. So wherever you're at, whatever chord you're playing over, you can always have that foundation of either that major pentatonic blues scale or the minor pentatonic blues scale. So if you're in this C right here, same concept. You can start with this C note here or this C note here, and this is your major. Same chord, minor. Go to your F. Now I know I'm playing some of the same phrases, same licks, and it's kind of boring. I get that, but you're going to use your ear and you're going to be more creative. And you know, it's all about whatever you're playing over. Maybe you're jamming with some folks. Could be any kind of rhythm. It really doesn't matter. This is just note choices and being able to play over the chords with your ear, being able to hear. And once you get to the point where you can just use these two patterns, you know, kind of back and forth, you literally can play anything. Because like I said, you're almost using all the notes in one octave, but you're just playing them in a really cool way to where you've got lots of options and you're not ever stuck in that pentatonic box right there. Because you can always move around depending on which chords you're playing. D chord. So I hope this really helps you. This is really some cool stuff once you get into it, and I hope that you take the time to really dive in and study this stuff and really just have fun with it. There's not a whole lot of study to it. It's just two patterns is all you really need to get down. The rest of it is just using your ear and just playing over the chords. So hope this is really helpful for you. So hey, let me know in the comments if this is kind of like an aha moment for you. Also, I would love to know who are your favorite blues players. And when you listen to them and when you listen to their lead playing, do you hear them playing just the minor pentatonic blues scale only? Or do you hear them mixing, going back and forth from the minor to the major pentatonic blues scales? I'd love to know what you think. And always remember that you can always get back to your home base or your foundation scale. So no matter where you're at, no matter what key you're playing in, if you're playing with a band and they were doing a blues tune and let's say it was in B flat, which would be pretty wild, but it'd be these three chords right here. You can always find those home base foundation patterns. So you start with this B flat right there. There's your major pentatonic blues. And there's your minor pentatonic blues. So no matter where you're at, And that way you'll never get lost on the fretboard. Once again, I recommend that you go watch my last video. It talks a lot about all of this same concept. Once again, it's talking about playing over a major chord or a minor chord, where this video lesson was all about the dominant 7th chord. And if you want to take all of this to a higher level, I've got a 23-page free PDF reference guide. And if you want a copy of it, then just put in the comments, free PDF, and I'll send it to you.